Welcome now to the IMUS program from the great state of Arizona. Senator John McCain. Good morning, Senator McCain.
Good morning, Don. Wasilla, Alaska. Way to go.
Pretty good, huh?
You've been everywhere. That's great.
So my brother Fred calls me. He's so excited. I got to see you down there in Tucson. He's a buddy of Senator Kyle's.
Oh, yeah. It was great to see Fred down there. Listen, your brother is enjoying life. He enjoys every bit of it, every moment of it, and he's still one of the most entertaining guys I've ever met. We got in a little conversation again about his misfortune of being kicked off one of those social networking.
Well, we need to get into that. So I hope he's not serious. But so health care reform is going to pass?
Well, you know, it seems to me that if you look at it objectively, that if the president delayed his trip, he must think that they are going to round up the votes. But then I see an interesting article on the front page of the Washington Post this morning that Speaker Pelosi may try to pass it without a vote. And, you know, before we get into the explanation of that, everybody would get bored, but it basically would deem the Senate bill passed, and so that they don't have to vote on that bill, they could vote on their own bill. Well, that, on an issue of this magnitude, I mean, that would be a horrendous thing to do. I mean, that is just unbelievable if they would deem 1/6 an issue that affects 1/6 of our gross national product but through some kind of parliamentary legerdemain. It'd be nuts.
Well, if we believe these polls, I guess there's no reason not to, that a majority of people in this country don't want this bill and it's going to anger a bunch of folks, then and they go ahead and, let's just say, get it passed anyway. Won't the Republicans all gain control of both the House and Senate in November, and they could just change it back, couldn't they?
I think, well, then you'd still have the president able to use a veto. But I think in the short term, you would have a reaction of probably unlike anything quite like we've ever seen against this. The majority of the American people want us to start over. They don't want it. They believe it's going to increase their taxes. They believe it's going to increase their health costs. And they're right, by the way. In case you missed Paul Ryan's presentation, when we were down at the Blair House, quote, meeting, unquote, it is really has serious impact, and people are more angry than I've ever seen them before in my time. And if they pass this, particularly using legerdemain, but if they pass it no matter what, I think you'll see an election the likes of which we have not seen in a long time. I also think you remember when we passed a thing called catastrophic. You remember the catastrophic health insurance, and the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Dan Rostenkowski, went home and an old lady clonked him over the head with a sign, and they came back and repealed it. You know, so there will be a huge repeal movement that would immediately begin across the country.
Talking with Senator John McCain here at the IMUS in the morning program. When's this primary that you're in?
August 24th is the date of the primary. It'll probably be a balmy 110 to 15 in Phoenix on that day.
You've got to win this. You realize that, don't you?
I'm confident. I'm working hard, working very, very hard, and I know I've got to earn every vote, and I'm confident I think we're in very good position, but I mean, the reality is there's a great deal of anti-incumbency out there and a great deal of dissatisfaction. You're in my home state is hurting very badly. We've got 48% of the homes in Arizona are underwater. In other words, they're worth less than the payments. It's tough times in Arizona, really tough.
I do know that I know people in Arizona who don't agree with you on everything are still going to vote for you. So somebody must like you.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that.
Is Sarah Palin going to be out there campaigning for you?
Yeah, I think she's coming out. Scott Brown was out weekend before last, and we had a great time. He's a really quite remarkable guy. We went to a University of Arizona basketball game, which they won in double overtime, and so we had a good time. And Sarah coming out, I think, is going to be helpful. She's certainly very, very popular, and I'm grateful for her coming out. It'll be good to see her again, Todd.
You know, I was thinking about this morning. We played one of your 5 favorite songs from ABBA, which It's never one of my favorite groups, however, but it's irrelevant, isn't it?
Yeah, and you notice they're just in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and everybody says they don't like ABBA, but everybody listens to it.
That was your point before, and I didn't know you knew that, but yeah, they were just inducted last night. So, you're an old Navy veteran. I was thinking about Eric Massey. You ever had any tickle parties?
I was look. If you wrote a novel, nobody would read it. If you made a movie, nobody would watch it. I'm astounded. It's a far different Navy than the one that I ever served in.
Representative Patrick Kennedy freaked out on the floor of the House, but in a way, he was right about all of this nonsense being reported like that.
He's got a point.
And nobody
we
talking
have a
about
tendency to grasp to the.
And nobody talking about Afghanistan. What's going on there?
Well, things are going pretty well. As a matter of fact, as a coincidence, General Petraeus just walked into my office. We're having a hearing this morning where he's going to bring the Senate up and the Armed Services Committee up to speed on what's going on there and the serious situation with the Israeli settlement crisis here that's going on. And so we're succeeding in Afghanistan. There's going to be greater sacrifice. It's going to be tough, but we've got a great general in General McChrystal, and we have the best military we've ever had in our history. And I guarantee you, General Petraeus and others would confirm that. And they're the very best, and they're going to do the job. And I worry about them being sure that we're going to stay. I worry about the corruption, Karzai government. We worry about all those things. But you just had an election in Iraq, which was very messy. But, you know, it's the only contested election in the whole Middle East except for in Israel.
I know that. What did you make of the administration's pretty harsh tone with Israel?
I think it's a mistake. I think we ought to cool it. We ought to calm down. We ought to talk quietly. The problem with Israel and the Palestinians is not the settlements. It's the existence of Israel. If the existence of Israel would be recognized by its neighbors, we might have a better opportunity to sit down and have meaningful negotiations. When we gave up Gaza, everybody said that would improve the prospects for peace. It didn't. They just used Gaza as a base for launching rocket attacks into Israel. So we ought to keep our eye on the ball, and that is to begin the peace talks, and the existence of Israel has to be recognized by its neighbors, in my view.
Coming up on 20 minutes till the hour, I know you have a meeting with General Petraeus, so let's go to that. Thank you very much, as always, for appearing, and let's win this thing, all right?
Thank you for having me on, old friend, and come on back to Arizona, and we'll see all of your old friends. We'll spend some time with Fred.
We're going to New Mexico on Friday.
It's about time I came back out to the ranch.
Thanks, Senator.
Thanks.
Senator John McCain here on the IMUS Morning Program.